Pretty inspiring story, huh? I mean, I actually saw it on Facebook Friday or yesterday. I can't remember what it was, and I'm thinking, oh, I got to show that. I got to show that this morning. But I shudder to think about myself in the same situation. By the way, you can go upstairs. U-turn middle and high school students, go ahead and go. But as I was mentioning, I shudder to think of myself in that same situation. Would I have been like the bus driver? Or would I have been like the pedestrian who just walked by? Or would I have been like the bicyclist who kept riding along and didn't do anything? Even more than that, what would have happened if the bus driver had not stopped? The news report could have been much different that day for the girl, for her family, for the traffic below. Imagine that, okay? For New York, or whatever city that is in New York. But, what a difference the driver made. What an example, even just a small one, of pursuing bigger and better, making life count. Like we talked about last week, doing something with what we have, offering the small things, the fish, the loaves, whatever we have to God, and seeing what He could do with our lives, with our time, with our talents. The bus driver could have said, well, I'm on duty, I don't have time. I'm just a bus driver. I'm not qualified. I don't have a counseling degree or crisis management certificate. I couldn't talk her off the ledge. I don't have a lot of money. What can I possibly do for that girl? He could have rationalized all of that in his mind, but he didn't. Okay? Instead, he offered what he had. His voice, his arms, his hands, his wisdom, his words, his time, and the things that God had deposited in his heart. From church, from scripture, from his mom. He offered those little things, and God worked a miracle there. Saved a life. Made a difference in her life. The driver became a hero to her, a hero to those students on the bus, to the community, to everyone who watched this video clip. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you do, your life counts. You matter to God, okay? God is for you. God wants more for you, bigger and better, that your life will make a difference, that you will experience the things that God has promised you. Fruitfulness, successfulness, that you won't settle for mediocre or less in this life. God says, man, I've created you for a purpose. Rise up to that. Rise out of wherever you're at and rise into the things that I have for you. So that when we hop off the balance beam of life, like we saw last week with that video clip, and we stand before the judge, we're going to hear, that was cool. Well done, good and faithful and courageous and fearless servant. Wouldn't that be cool to hear that? You guys awake today? Okay. Well, good morning and welcome to The Journey. Happy Valentine's Day and happy President's Day and happy rainy Sunday and whoever's birthday it is this month. So, but anyway, what's that? That's later on. That's not today, though. I do get older this month, though. But anyway, I really appreciate all of you. Is this working okay? Okay, good. It sounds strange from where I'm at. But I really appreciate every one of you for taking the time to come this morning, and especially on a holiday weekend. If you are here for the first time, I want to say thank you for coming, and thank you for taking a risk to come to a place that you've never been to before and be around people that you have never encountered before and listen to someone like me talk for a few minutes. But I want you to know that wherever you're at on your spiritual journey, whatever you believe, wherever you've been, whatever you've done, wherever you're going, you are welcome here. And if you ask any person in this place, is that really true? They would say yes, it's absolutely true. And so I just want to say thank you, and I hope you enjoy it and that you come back again. Well, we've been in a series called Bigger and Better. And if you've missed any of the talks, you can listen to them online. Just go to our website, journeyboise.com, and you can listen. But one of the premises, one of the things in here, in this series, is that God is for you. Okay? He is for me. He's not against us. He wants us to live life large, to pursue everything that He has designed us for, to maximize our potential, to not settle for mediocre, to be willing to start small, to give our all, and then see what He will do with the rest. Okay? If you're anything like me, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds good. This sounds All right, I think I could believe this. I want to pursue more. I want greater things in my life and out of my life and for my life. I want God to be part of it. I'm all in, okay? You might be thinking along those lines. But then again, if you are like me, you start having some questions. Well, what if things don't work out? What if God doesn't come through? What if I start digging ditches like we talked about last week and the water doesn't come? What if I burn some bridges to things that hold me back and nothing changes? What about those times in the past that I tried and failed? What if I chased bigger and better, a bigger and better life, only to find out that God isn't in it? What if about all the times I've prayed and God has not answered prayer? The title of the talk this morning is When Things Go South, okay? And the talk is mostly geared towards Christ followers. However, if you are a person who you're not sure what you believe about Jesus or God or Bible or whatever, I think you'll still be able to connect with a lot of what we're talking about here this morning. But how do we reconcile this message of bigger and better when the reality in life is that our journey is so often marked with setbacks, suffering, and unanswered prayer? What that bus driver did that we saw on the video clip was so cool. But I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he were suspended or even fired from his job for violating protocol and putting his passengers at risk. Okay, I've seen it happen before. I don't know if you guys have seen it happen before. I've seen it happen, on the news. Someone, I don't know if it actually happened to the driver or not, but those things have happened. I've seen, an employee, for example, stop a shoplifter or disarms a guy with a gun and lose his job. Some of you seen that in the news or online or whatever it is, and they lose their job, and you're like, what in the world? He lost his job for doing the right thing? He pursues something greater, succeeds, and then things just go south on him. And, sometimes that happens. I remember back in the day when I used to work, this is 20 years ago, longer than 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, when I used to work at a Walgreens store in San Francisco. And back then, before all the lawsuits were crazy, if you're an employee, you're also security. And so it was actually kind of fun for a while until it got a little old, getting into skirmishes and fights and so forth, all the time. We're like, I'm not getting paid enough for this. But anyway, you do the right thing, and then things go south on you. Like, what's up with that? And I've experienced this several times in the years I've been a pastor. Things are going great at church. We're moving forward. We're taking ground together. Things are just, it's just awesome. This one year when I was pastoring in Sisters, Oregon, we launched a plan to move out of our rented space at the dingy old middle school that we were using for church. And we decided to build a brand new building. People were excited. It was a 17,000 square foot building that we were going to build. They were excited. It was full steam ahead. People were giving. People were raising money. People were serving. It was just great. Then a few months later, someone gets unhappy about something, and they leave the church, and several people go with them. And right before our official groundbreaking ceremony, where it's supposed to be like, yeah, and we're supposed, instead of having this big, happy, growing crowd of people to celebrate, it's kind of like, where is everybody? We're out there on our property, and, it's kind of like, is this a holiday weekend? And we even had, it's kind of like, yay, God, woo, all right, and we even had some people who were still in the church. They went fishing that day. We're like, and we finished the day wondering if this whole thing was going to fly in any direction besides south. Okay? Now I've seen some amazing miracles happen over the years. I've been part of praying for certain people who had cancer, and without getting special treatment, they were healed miraculously. One lady had stage 4 cancer throughout her body. The doctors said, you're going to die any day now. After we prayed for her, she kept living. She went back to the doctor, and they couldn't find any trace of cancer. And it was like, oh, that's awesome. I remember this one woman in our church who had tried for years to get pregnant and have a child with no success. We prayed for her and her husband, and less than a year later, she had a baby. It was awesome. But I've also prayed for people, and they died. I mean, not like right away, okay? I mean, it's just like, they start choking and, and they fall to the ground like, I'm sorry, And it wasn't quite like that. But, still, it's the letdown is tremendous, especially when you've seen God do some really good things, and you want that to happen again, and so you pray and you believe, and then it doesn't happen, and again, it doesn't happen. You're like, what's going on? I don't understand. And, and then you hear back from people, well, thanks for praying, Pastor. And they're sincere. And I'm like, sure. But I walk away feeling helpless, feeling like, oh, man, and I'm not God. I know that. But still, and the truth is that sometimes you catch a vision for better, for great. You pray in great faith. You do something about that faith. You dig ditches. You prepare for more. You move forward. And then the miracle doesn't come. You're like, man, what's up with that? The ditch stays dry. The oil is used up. The 5 loaves and 2 fish are gone. And people are still hungry. And you've done everything you know to do. And in the end, you feel a sense of disappointment with God. Like maybe he let you down. Failed you. Turned his back on you, and you begin to doubt. Maybe this is all in your head. You think, maybe I got my hopes a little too high. Maybe God really isn't there for me like I was hoping he was, or maybe I did something wrong and God is mad at me. Maybe you tried to do the right thing and make your marriage work, but things went south anyway, and your spouse still left you. Maybe you're out to serve God wholeheartedly, and but ended up getting burned by a church or by a pastor. Maybe you prayed earnestly for God to heal someone that you loved, and instead of seeing a miracle happen, you watch your loved one suffer and die. And the pain we feel can be so agonizing. I prayed, I invested, I believed all that time for what? For nothing. We don't want to risk again. We don't want to believe again. And so we crawl back into our hole and decide to just play it safe. I'm just going to take care of me and mine. And if God wants to help me, that's fine, but I'm not going to trust him like I once did. And it's just a natural reaction. And let me tell you, as a pastor, as a person who cares, I wish I had a specific answer for every letdown that you've experienced here. Not just here, but in life, okay? Every letdown you experience here at the journey, in life. But I wish I could tell you every why. I wish I could show you how it's all going to pan out in your life. I wish I could tell you exactly what God is going to do for you, Now, there are some things I'm sure that I could shed some light on, but I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. Sounds like a great uplifting message today. Right? Aren't you glad you got up early and come to church? But now, as we begin, I just want to point out a difference between human nature and how God desires to train us out of that human nature. Okay? Our human nature tends to want to focus on the failure, the letdown, the disappointment, the pain. And then we let that hinder us and paralyze us and even control our future actions, when instead, God, knowing that we will have pain, he wants to show us how to move forward in spite of that pain in order to see greater things in our lives. You got that difference? I mean, the difference is we focus on this pain and the disappointment, and we think it's just the end of the world, and so we just camp there. We just live there, and we just think, oh, God, okay, tomorrow I've got to get up. And all right, And instead, God says, I want to train you out of that nature to be able to move forward in that pain and through that pain into better things. You following on that? Okay, he's a real God. He's not like this fairy tale kind of thing. Okay, he meets us right where we're at, and he knows the kind of world we live in. So over the past few weeks, we've been looking at some glimpses of the life of a guy in the Old Testament named Elisha. And today we're going to look at the story of a woman who knew him fairly well. And her name is never revealed, but her story is one of tremendous letdown that we can all relate to in some way. So you can follow along on the screen as I go ahead and read, and hopefully this will hit you in the way it should. So one day Elisha went to the town of Shunem. A wealthy woman lived there, and she invited him to eat some food. From then on, whenever he passed that way, he would stop there to eat. She said to her husband, "I'm sure this man who stops in from time to time is a holy man of God. Let's make a little room for him on the roof and furnish it with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. Then he'll have a place to stay whenever he comes by." One day Elisha returned to Shunem, and he went up to his room to rest. He said to her servant Gehazi, "Tell the woman I want to speak to her." And when she arrived, Elisha said to Gehazi, "Tell her that we appreciate." I'm not sure why he didn't just touch her directly, but anyway, he just kind of like, all right, using his servant. Okay, there we go. Anyway, tell her that we appreciate the kind concern she's shown us. Now ask her what we can do for her. Does she want me to put in a good word for her to the king or to the commander of the army? No, she replied. My family takes good care of me. Later, Elisha asked Gehazi, "What do you think we can do for her?" And he suggested she doesn't have a son, and her husband is an old man. I'm not sure if that was a compliment or not, but anyway. Call her back again, Elisha told him. When the woman returned, Elisha said to her as she stood in the doorway, "Next year at about this time, you will be holding a son in your arms." "No, my lord," she protested. "Please don't lie to me like that, oh man of God." But sure enough, the woman soon became pregnant, and at the end of the following year, she had a son, just as Elisha had said. One day when her child was older, he went out to visit his father, who was working with the harvesters. Suddenly, he complained, my head hurts. And his father said to one of his servants, "Carry him home to his mother." So the servant took him home, and his mother held him on her lap. But around noontime, he died. She carried him up to the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and left him there. She sent a message to her husband, Send one of the servants and a donkey so that I can hurry to the man of God and come right back." So this woman sets out on a donkey and travels 20 miles to see Elisha. And keep in mind that 20 miles in those days on a donkey was a significant distance. I don't know if you'd ever want to travel 20 miles on a donkey, but that would be a little painful. Anyway, so here we go. Continue on the story. But when she came to the man of God at the mountain, she fell to the ground before him and caught hold of his feet. Gehazi began to push her away, but the man of God said, "Leave her alone. Something is troubling her deeply, and the Lord has not told me what it is." Then she said, It was you, my Lord, who said I would have a son. And didn't I tell you not to raise my hopes?" Then Elisha said to Gehazi, "Get ready to travel. Take my staff and go. Don't talk to anyone along the way. Go quickly and lay the staff on the child's face." But the boy's mother said, "As surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I won't go home unless you go with me." And so Elisha returned with her. So here we have a woman who had a pretty good life. She wasn't poor. In fact, she had everything that she needed. She had land, she had wealth, security. She was well cared for. She probably lived on acreage in a gated community with a sweet BMW of her own. It's pretty cool. She even was kind and generous. The only thing that she didn't have, the only thing was that she was physically incapable of having a child, which was the unexpressed deepest desire of her heart. And so God uses Elisha to give her a promise, a vision of something greater than she had, that she would have a baby of her own. And it was a vision and a promise that she was hesitant to grab hold of because she didn't want to be let down and disappointed and hurt. To have her deepest desire toyed with was something that she could not bear. And it wasn't just the thought of having a son, but it was the dream of being a mother, to have a child that she could love and care for and teach and raise and pour herself into. That was a greater life that she longed for. And God came through. Now she was living, that bigger, better life until one day, maybe 10 or so years later, it came to a crashing halt. The dream was cut short and it went south in a hurry. And it appeared as if that tragic dream that she had ended abruptly. And talk about having a reason to be disappointed and struck with grief. What you now consider your purpose for living has just been attacked and taken from you. You're like, what do I do with this? And it would be totally understandable for her to be disappointed with God. to feel like God let her down or even did her in, to lose hope, to lose faith. Nobody would fault her for that. She could have given up right there, buried her son and with him her dreams. She could have mourned and grown bitter, but she did neither of that. And over the next few minutes, we're going to look at some things that she did that I think would be wise to take note of. Things that God would want us to apply to our lives, which is probably why her story is in Scripture. And by the way, God can handle our disappointments. He can handle it when we're upset, when we feel like He's let us down. Okay? We don't have to hide that. He knows our hearts anyway, right? Now, I don't know what God has promised for each person here. I don't know what prayers have been prayed or how often God will come through. That's not for me to know, but I do know how we should respond when pursuing bigger and better, and then things go south in our lives. And so in your handout is a green sheet. If you want to take notes, you're welcome to take notes. We're going to do that now. So let's look at when south happens, okay? Because south happens sometimes, all right? So first of all, expect times of testing, okay? Expect times of testing. South is going to happen, and you will be tested. It's one of those few things in life that you're guaranteed. Death, taxes, testing, and temptation, okay? We're guaranteed those in life. It doesn't matter who you are or how good or religious you think you are. South is going to happen to you, and you need to expect times of testing, times of resistance in your life. The path towards bigger and better is always met with resistance. We have an enemy of our souls who, if he can't take our lives, will try to ruin our lives and ruin our faith. Jesus said this, it'll be on the screen. He said, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the mediocre." No, to the full, is what he said, okay? To have it to the full. So here we have Jesus saying that he has come so that we can have life to the full, in abundance, greater things, bigger, better, but that we should expect resistance. There's an enemy that will set out to steal that full life and destroy all hopes for it. Whatever he does will test you. It will test your resolve. It will test your strength. It will test your faith. And the work of God in our lives will always be tested. Bad things happen to good people. Even to people in whose lives God is working and leading towards bigger and better. It's just the way it is. We live in a fallen world that needs to be put back together. In fact, that's part of what our mission is. Putting back together a world that's fallen apart. But just because something bad happens, you encounter a setback, an unanswered prayer, a letdown, even a tragedy, it doesn't mean it's the end. It doesn't mean it's the end of the line. It just means it's a test. And like every test, that will come to an end. Okay? Tests come to an end. Tests don't last forever. They may seem to, but they don't. Even when I was in Bible college, I took this class. It had a big old long name called hermeneutics. And I was like, what in the world is that? But I had to take it. The professor, I think he was once part of the Nazi regime. Okay? Because his tests, his take-home tests, or take-to-your-dorm tests, lasted an average of 9 to 13 hours. And I was like, Hitler, if there was anybody on campus that I was struggling to respect and love and enjoy, it was my professor. I was thinking, oh my goodness, is it wrong to hope he dies? That was just how, okay, stuff comes out, okay? Mike, you're studying to be a pastor. I know, but I'm a real guy, okay? But I thought I was going to lose my mind. It was just crazy, okay? But even those tests didn't last forever, okay? Listen, it's irresponsible to think that we won't have times of testing in our lives. The testing of our faith, our character, our resilience. South is going to happen. Resistance is going to happen. Time of testing will come. Just expect it and realize that it's not the end. And that will help lessen the blow. Which brings to the next point. Be prepared for south to happen. Okay? If you're in school and you know that a test is coming, what do? You study. Absolutely. Yes. If you've got any sense, you prepare for it. You study, you review, you practice, you put yourself in a place where when the test comes, you're ready to handle whatever is thrown at you. You know, we can't have our guard down. We're living in stupidity if we aren't prepared for tests and temptations and resistance and things because things that go south will come. You know, on Wednesday nights at U-Turn, which is our youth group that meets on Wednesday nights, we're now 2 weeks into a series on dating and purity, okay? And, you know, it was funny because I was the one who kicked off the series a couple of Wednesdays ago. And, you know, you should have seen how squirrely and how giggly a few of the students were, you know, when I mentioned the word sex. You know, and it was like, you know, and it was like, you know, like, oh my gosh, the pastor said sex, you know? He's not supposed to know about that, you know? I mean, that was the response I was getting from some of those students. And it was like, okay, you know, and, you know, they feel awkward and weird, I get it. But the reason we're doing this series is because we want to help the students prepare for testing and temptation that is already coming their way. We want to help them raise the standards of how they think about the whole subject, because that's where it starts, okay? While maybe a handful of them are currently dating, most, if not all of them, have some interest in the opposite sex. And while they're not all going to, you know, or while we're not going to get graphic and gross on Wednesday nights, okay, we're going to keep everything age appropriate, we want to come alongside parents to help their students prepare for the testing and the temptations that they will or are facing right now. And so if you're a parent of a teenager, bring them, okay? It's in their best interest, okay? It really is. But not only does the culture that we live in fail in the area of sexual temptation, but it seems to love to fail in that area as well. Have you noticed that? The standards are so low you can't even see them anymore. Almost anything goes, whether it's on TV or in the movies or in the music or internet, whether they're what they're taught in school, and even the conversations and jokes they have amongst their peers on campus. Okay? And if you ask them what that's like, they probably won't tell you because they will be very embarrassed and probably ashamed of that. By the way, can we turn up this row of lights up here? The one that's right above me. Kind of like, yeah, there we go. I can see a little bit better now. Thank you. Appreciate that. But, you know, we see, for example, in the news, politicians, school teachers, leaders of successful companies, neighbors, priests, and unfortunately pastors, all giving in to sexual temptation. Families and lives falling apart because of it. You know, with our high-tech culture, things are getting even worse. In a study that was done in 2009, it was found that 39% of all teens had posted or sent sexually suggestive messages to other people their age. Okay, 39%. 11% of young teens, aged 13 through 16, and 20% of all teens had posted or sent nude or semi-nude pictures or videos of themselves to somebody else. Okay? 1 in 5 have done that. We live in a culture that's gone crazy with that. And you can't delete those things. You can delete them, but they're there forever for exes to post online and so forth. You know, when it comes to pornography, 93% of boys and 62% of girls are exposed to internet pornography by the age of 18. 93%. Well, my son would never. You're living in the Wizard of Oz or the Oz or something. I don't know. You know, if you think that's not going to happen. In fact, 83% of boys and 57% of girls have seen group sex online. People fail these tests and temptations because they aren't prepared. They are not prepared. And one might say, well, given the culture we live in, you know, it's becoming harder and harder to resist sexual temptation. And I think that statement is fairly true. But if sexual temptation and sexual sin is such a problem in our culture and in the church, why do so many people get caught off guard? Why don't people prepare themselves to handle that kind of temptation, knowing that it will come? You following? And this is not to make anyone feel bad if you fall into temptation. No. But at the same time, let's be real and let's look and see what's around us. You know, to say a person was caught off guard and didn't see it coming is like standing in the middle of the river saying, I didn't think I'd get wet. Okay? I mean, that's what it's like in this culture, especially when it comes to sex. You know, and this is just one example of the point I'm trying to make. Things will go south when you're trying to do the right thing. We will be tested and we need to be prepared. Okay? This message isn't on, this last example, but that's just one example to point. Preparation is needed for life, for temptations and testings that come our way. And we all know that whether it's with sexual temptation or with others, but especially with that, it's destroyed lives. It's ripped apart relationships and marriages and families. And yet so many people still don't guard that, aren't prepared for it. But whatever it is, okay, if you know it's going to rain, buy an umbrella. Isn't that true? The problem is that we often don't think about preparing for rain when it's sunny outside. But that's when to buy one, and they're usually a little cheaper when it's sunny outside too, okay? But in other words, strengthen faith before life gets bad. Before things go south, don't coast in the good times. Instead, in the good times, get stronger. Pray. Believe. Choose to believe. I'm going to believe. Things are going well right now. I'm not just going to coast. I'm going to believe. I'm going to pray. I'm going to solidify my faith. I'm going to learn to praise. I'm going to learn to worship. I'm going to make decisions in the light of, make decisions in the light before it gets dark. Because I know the dark is going to come. And so there's decisions I'm going to make while it's light that when I'm in the dark, I've already made that decision. And this is how I'm going to respond. I'm prepared. Okay? But be prepared for south to happen. And then, just like Journey said, don't stop believing. Okay, I don't know if I kind of got that, but anyway, don't stop believing, okay? When things go south, that song never really actually made sense to me, but those words do when we're talking about pursuing bigger and better, chasing the dream that God has given you, all right? And things go south on us. Don't stop believing. See, the temptation is to stop believing when things go wrong. Maybe you don't totally stop believing in God or that He loves you, but you stop believing that He's for you. You stop believing that He's with you. You stop believing that He has called you to more, that He wants you to move forward and to not give up. You stop believing that you can or should or still pursue greater things. And so we would just retreat and continue in mediocrity, and we settle for less because we've stopped believing. We live in an attitude of defeat instead of an attitude of faith. And there's a difference. An attitude of defeat or an attitude of faith. An attitude of negativity instead of joy. In spite of this setback, in spite of this disappointment, in spite of bad things happening when I'm doing the right thing, I still believe God is for me. And sometimes we might have to say it out loud. I still believe that He has a plan. I still believe that He's going to get me through. And so I'm going to start living like that. Okay? It's a conscious decision to remain unchanging in my view of God and His desires for me. Notice the woman from Shunem that we looked at in that long Bible passage. When her son died in her arms, she didn't get a shovel and a coroner. Instead, she stuck his body in the guest room, grabbed the keys to her donkey, and took a trip to see Elisha, okay? Because she still believed. Now, it wasn't that she was in denial. I'm not even sure she believed that he would be brought back to life. The point is that her actions show that she didn't let his death kill her faith. Which brings us to the next point. Stay the course until God makes it clear to change the course. In other words, persevere. This woman from Shunem took action and stayed the course. She didn't just sulk, she pressed in. She left her promise behind and traveled 20 miles to see the one who might be able to help her, might be able to give her an answer. And when she got there, she wasn't satisfied just to say, Elisha, will you pray for me? Please pray. She wasn't going anywhere until she got Elisha to go with her back to her house. That's perseverance, because Elisha, he wasn't just some, local pastor or some religious guy with a lot of time on his hands. Elisha was connected with kings and military leaders. Okay? He influenced powerful people. He was an important guy, a busy guy, a guy with respect, and he had the popularity in his day that Jesus had in his. And when things go south for us in life, the message here is don't give up. Don't give in. Persevere until God makes it clear to change course, if he does. I like how someone said this. When you're going through hell, keep going. Okay? Don't stop to take the temperature or to take pictures. Keep going until you're out of there. All right? Just keep going. Speaking to good people who are experiencing bad things, the writer of Hebrews said this on the screen. He said, so do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive everything that he has promised. Or that says what he has promised, okay? Stay the course in pursuing the will of God. Pursuing the greater things of God for your life. James, another writer in the New Testament, said this. The testing of your faith, there's that word testing again, right? Develops perseverance. Okay, testing and perseverance are connected. And perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. That's part of what God desires for us, which is part of the reason why we encounter setbacks and testings and so forth. Okay, here's what he also said a little bit down in his letter. He said this, blessed is the man or woman who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah, that's well done. You did good on that balance beam, man. Yeah, I want to hear that. I want to receive that kind of crown, instead of, wow. You kind of didn't do anything there, did you? Receiving that crown means that we've persevered and we've stood the test. This other one, Peter, says along the same lines. He says, so then, those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and continue to do good. Don't stop doing good. Don't stop believing. Stay the course. Persevere. Keep doing good. Keep doing what's right. Bus driver, you got fired. Keep doing what you know what's right. I'm not saying he did, but whatever situation it is, okay? You got fired for doing that. You got this coming against you because you were doing right. You know what? Don't worry about that. Keep doing good. Commit yourself to your Creator and keep doing good. Persevere. Persevere. Every one of these passages says, don't give up. Stay the course. Continuing what God has for you. Don't let the disappointments, the doubts, the setbacks, the failures, the opposition, the discouragement derail you. Keep going. Keep moving forward. See, God never ignores our prayers. He never does. Now, I know that many times it seems like God ignores us. We pray for things again and again, and God is silent or too busy answering other people's prayers. I can't tell you how many times I prayed for the Niners to beat the Seahawks on the NFC Championship game, and I got denied every time, okay? Now, I know that's, yeah, someone's like, yeah, I'm so glad. Someone else's prayers were answered, right? But I know that's a funny statement. But even with serious things, praying for someone's life, and you see that God doesn't answer according to the way you prayed, okay? Scripture tells us that our prayers are valuable to God, pleasing to Him. They're compared to the value of incense in that culture. Not one prayer is ignored or thrown away or disregarded or wasted. Now, God may not answer in the way that we want Him to answer. And I know that there are many people in this room who have experienced that with serious things. Okay? And I'm not trying to in any way make light of that, because it is absolutely true. God may not answer in the way we want him to answer, or even the way we think is consistent with his will. We have to trust that he has, though, our best interests in mind. That he is looking out for us. And that he will release answers and resources at the exact time and place that he sees best in our lives. Just my kids. I love my kids. I've got 4 of them. And they're awesome, even when they beat each other up, and scream and cry and kick. And, the 2 minions still do that. But anyway, I call my little ones minions because they're kind of cute like minions. But anyway, Despicable Me too. This was what that's from. But my kids ask me for a lot of things. I come through with some of them. Many of them I don't. And it's not that I ignore my kids. I listen to everything that my kids say, everything that my kids ask for. I listen. Why? Because I love them, and I'm intent on being the best dad I can for them and looking out for their best interests. And so I listen to them. But I don't give them everything, because I want to do what I know is best for them in the moment and in the long run, because I am interested in their best interests, right? And so I'll act accordingly. God isn't a whole lot different than that. And so whatever you do when things go south, don't stop praying, because God never ignores prayer. He has overseen every prayer that you pray. He's engaged with you, and he's committed to you. Also, God always rewards faith. We don't give up, because God is a rewarder of faith. In one way or another, God will reward those who believe and move forward, those who choose to take him at his word and not give up. And this is mentioned time and time and time and time again throughout the pages of Scripture. I wish I had the time to go over it, but powerful things happen because people believe, because they have faith. And when things go south, remember that God always rewards faith. And so don't give up on that. Keep moving forward. Those are some things that God looks for. Next, God can resurrect any dream. Now let's take a look at how this downturn ended for the Shunammite woman. Be on the screen. Gehazi hurried on ahead and laid the staff on the child's face, but nothing happened. There was no sign of life. He returned to meet Elisha and told him the child's still dead. And you could imagine, they're on the road back 20 miles, and poor Gehazi's like a long way. And so he comes back, child's still dead, and imagine the look on the woman's face of disappointment and are you serious? When Elisha arrived, the child was indeed dead, lying there on the prophet's bed. He went in alone and shut the door behind him and prayed to the Lord. Then he lay down on the child's body, placing his mouth to the child's mouth, his eyes on the child's eyes, and his hands on the child's hands. That's a little weird. It's probably why he shut the door. Okay, but anyway, we'll keep moving on. And the child's body began to grow warm again. Elisha got up and walked back and forth in the room a few times. Then he stretched himself out again on the child. This time the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Holy snot, Batman, he's alive. Okay. Then Elisha summoned Gehazi. Call the child's mother, he said. And when she came in, Elisha said, here, take your son. She fell at his feet, overwhelmed with gratitude. Then she picked up her son and carried him downstairs. When things go south, when you encounter opposition, discouragement, unanswered prayer, doubt, even death, remember that God can resurrect any dream, any pursuit. Do things always end just like this? In a miraculous resurrection? No, they don't always end like that. I think part of the reason is on us. We're the ones who give up along the way. We're the ones who give up on God. We're the ones who stop persevering. And sometimes it's on God. Sometimes he has a different plan. And he wants to give us something else. There's something else that's dead in our lives that he wants to resurrect and call to life. You see, more important than even a dream or a pursuit is the life of Christ in you and me that he wants to resurrect. And he wants life and faith to be alive and free and powerful working in us. Okay? But know this, God can resurrect any dream. And so we don't give up. And last, he can and should be trusted. God is too faithful to waste your faith. He's too wise to make a mistake. He's too caring to let you go. He's too powerful to fail you. He's too loving to disregard your heart. He's too good to not be trusted. And even in the times of darkness, when bad things happen, he is to be trusted. Listen to this, what Solomon said. He said, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will direct your paths. He will direct your path toward bigger and better, more fruit, more success, greater things that he has for you. But it requires that trust. Am I going to trust him? That he's good to me. That he is interested in these details and these things that are important to me. Just like he was interested in that woman and what was important to her. And it ended like that with her. And there are times, and we will see it end like that with us. But you see, we don't know what's in the future, right? We can't see tomorrow. We can't see the things that God has in store for us next month, next week, next year, 6 months from now, whatever it is, okay? We can't see those things. And God just might have some things waiting to pour out on us. And he's saying, I want you to take these steps first. I want you to see this happen in your life first. I want you to persevere. And when you're ready, boom, I'm going to hand it to you. I'm going to bless you with it. You following on that? So we can't give up. We can't give in. Instead, we persevere. And we don't stop believing. Okay, let's stand and let's pray. Lord God, thank you for this day. I thank you for every person that is here, every person that you love so dearly, every person that you are for. God, you are not against anybody in this room. You are against some things that we do, some things that we choose. And that you make clear, and you want us to change that. But you're not against us. You're for us. You're for our very best. You're for the bigger and better for us. You're for us to find the potential that you have designed for us and to live that to the full. Jesus, that's why you came. It's the enemy that seeks to steal and kill and destroy. And God, I pray for every person here as number one, that you would help us to catch more of a clear vision and glimpse of what you have for our lives. Number two, that you would help us to pursue that. And as we pursue what you have for us and take those small steps and give you the small things that we have, like the bus driver did, and believe you for more. God, I pray that when things go south, because they will, we will not respond in a way that takes us south as well. And that hurts us and that stops us in our tracks. But instead, God, help us to respond in a way that those circumstances may go south. We're not going to go south. We're going to continue to move forward. We're going to continue to believe. We're going to continue to prepare. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to trust you, God, in all these things. And so I just thank you for each person that's here. May we grow in perseverance. May we mature so that we don't lack anything. And we can receive everything that you have for us. Those who persevere to the end will receive a crown of life.